All right, now we're going to talk about some of the miscellaneous things I like to bring, some small things that might not be on most packing lists or things that make a big difference on a trip. I like to bring a water bottle. This is obviously important to just stay hydrated and have your own personal water bottle on you at all times. I like to bring an insulated one to keep the water cool. You can even put, warm stuff in here if it's a cold day and you're dealing with some rain and wind. So this is just a really important piece of gear to have, I think, on any trip. Similarly, I like to bring these kind of things. This is a hydration, like electrolyte powder. If you're getting dehydrated in the dry heat of Patagonia, the wind's drying you out, these hydration packs make a big difference. I usually account for at least one per day and then bring a couple extras just in case. And, I'll enjoy one of these at lunch, just kind of recharge as we're taking a break. I also always like to bring a koozie, super lightweight, but it's nice to have a cold beer or cold beverage in there whether you're at the lodge or, at lunch on the river, on the float when you're headed down the river. Always have one of these. Talked about this earlier in the line segment, but I'm going to bring it up here because I do think it's an important thing to bring is the the line cleaners for fly lines. And these are great to just make sure you're maintaining your line and that it's performing well for you throughout your trip. Very cheap, very packable, very small. Takes only a couple minutes to run the line through, but it can make a big difference in how the line is performing. I also always like to bring a small speaker like this. Whether you're getting ready, throwing on waders in the morning, or floating down the river, on a raft, having music going, I think it's a nice thing to have. The guides really enjoy it. It can just be a fun piece to add to a trip. And again, these small ones clip really nicely to most things, backpack, strap, whatever. So I always have one of these. A remote and portable battery charger is another must-have, in my opinion. This is really useful in the airport, on the plane, really anywhere you might need a charge. This thing will do the job for you. I do recommend spending a little bit of money on one. You get a better product and you can get a lot of charges out of a higher quality battery bank. If you find yourself away from the guide or you want to change a fly, you're waiting, up around the corner on your own, having your own hemos and nippers is, really helpful. It just allows you to be self-sufficient. You can get the fly out of a fish's mouth. You can change your fly. You can clip your leader. You can tie on whatever you need to. I always travel with this setup, and I always wear it on my neck all day as I'm fishing. Another useful piece of gear that I bring on every trip is some sort of quick drying towel and super absorbent rag. These are just wildly useful. I mean, there's a million scenarios where this could come in handy, whether it's drying off a piece of camera equipment or a fly box or, wiping yourself down. There's just so many ways where having something dry comes in handy. So super packable, very lightweight, but can be really useful. I also don't go anywhere without a headlamp. Super useful tool, whether it's at night at the lodge or, if you're camping on an overnight float at one of the destinations, just having the ability to see when it's dark is really useful. I always bring a small medical kit, first aid kit with the basics, Band-Aids, Neosporin, ibuprofen, Dayquil, NyQuil, Imodium, little ace bandage, that kind of stuff. The lodges will have all of this available and the guides will have it each day, but I just like to have my own stash. I know what I have in here just in case I need it. Lastly, I like to bring trash bags and Ziploc bags. These are really useful for, unforeseen situations. If you need to organize something, throw some flies in a Ziploc, throw a leftover sandwich in a Ziploc in your backpack. Ziplocs are just really versatile and good to have. Trash bags are great for when you're traveling. If you run into rain, you can throw your luggage in the trash bag. You can throw anything in a trash bag and it's immediately a little bit more waterproof. So super lightweight, obviously very packable, but can be useful in the right situation. One more thing that's very important in Patagonia is quality sunscreen. The sun is brutal down there. Long days in the sun and in the wind, having the sunscreen on your hands and face is going to be a big deal. So I always bring a small tube and I apply that a couple times a day. Usually bring that on the water with me in my bag, whether that's a backpack or a hip pack. Just keep putting that sunscreen on because that sun is no joke. So when you're fishing dry flies in Patagonia, it's important that they float. You're going to want to bring floatant. There's a lot of options and variety. So any of the major brands will get the job done, but at least one tube of these. If you did want to bring something for the guides, this is something they really appreciate. So whenever I go down there and I leave, I'm done with my trip, I leave my gink with them, leave my floatant. That stuff goes a long way for those guys. I hope you found this information useful, but please consult your pre-trip guides and your packing lists, as these videos are not comprehensive and they don't cover all aspects of all trips. And if you have any questions or if you ever need more information, you're welcome to call us or send us an email. Continuing on the travel piece and how to pack for a trip to Patagonia, I'm going to get into the final stages of getting everything into the bags and how I actually travel to Patagonia. So it depends on where you're going, either Argentina or Chile. There are different regulations at the airlines depending on which country you're going to. So in Chile, for example, there are no regulations in terms of carry-ons and fishing equipment. So you're welcome to bring this bag as a carry-on, with your rods, your reels, everything you'd normally carry in here. And then this big duffel would then have, all of your gear, your equipment, clothing. In Argentina, however, we run into a problem with the domestic airline not allowing fishing equipment to be carried on. And this applies to flies, fly lines, rods, reels. So showing up with this in hand in Buenos Aires is not going to work for that connecting flight to get to wherever you're going in Patagonia. So for that reason, when I'm going to Argentina, I actually tend to still use this bag, and I'll put all my fishing stuff in here as I normally would, but then I'll put it into this larger duffel. It fits perfectly along the edge. And then when I get to the lodge, I use this as my go-to bag every day. So I take this in the truck every day. I've got all my rods, reels, tippet, leader, everything in here. So I'm working out of there each day out of the truck. At the end of the day, you break your rods down, you put them back in there, back in the truck, back to the lodge in the evening. So I do like this as a working bag when on site. For someone who wanted to go with a lighter option, something like this works really well. A few rods fit in here, rolls up, also fits nicely in here. It's going to be less useful for working out of course, when you're at the lodge and at the truck, but it will do a good job of getting the rods down there. For my carry-on, I always go with the waterproof backpack. It does a great job at the lodge of just being bomb-proof and keeping everything organized. But while you're traveling, it's totally fine. It keeps things organized, and you just wear that as your carry-on backpack. So this is it. This is what I'm bringing to Patagonia. At most 3 pieces of luggage. I've got my backpack, I've got my rod case in hand or in here. That would cut it to 2 pieces of luggage. That allows me to be, quick in the airport if I need to run to catch a flight, if I need to run to catch a transfer. Just a few bags. Everything's in one place. I know where everything is, and I'm, comfortably and efficiently moving around.